Trust in me like I trust in you.
I don't even know what song that is.
Yeah, me neither. I just made it up. It's the way we're introducing this episode.
Good.
Because today's episode of Musing Deep Conversations with a Lighthearted Touch, we'll be talking about trust. Kyron here.
Trust!
Juan with a silky voice on the other side.
That's right.
And yeah, what brought this up for me?
Yeah, what did bring this up?
Was I've just been thinking recently, particularly around the don't trust, verify.
Don't trust, verify.
Which is one of like the golden rules that you'll see when you start entering into the cryptocurrency communities. You'll see that the real strong emphasis on one of the things that really makes a cryptocurrency usually is the aspect that it's immutable on the blockchain.
Correct.
You don't need to trust in somebody with your money. Like your money it's really like it's your responsibility. Essentially, it's giving 100% responsibility to yourself.
Yep.
At the moment, with the banks and stuff, you could probably say, it's still 90%. 99% your responsibility, but there is an aspect of, we mentioned in the last episode, of a bank failing.
Yeah.
That
there is a trust in a corporation still.
You have no recourse if that happens, essentially. Like you have to hope that maybe the government will bail you out, or etc. etc. Whereas with the crypto scene, it's like everything is your responsibility.
Yeah, everything's yours.
The seed, your wallet goes away, you can get it back as long as you have your seed phrases and things like that.
Yeah, but if you give away your seed phrase or something else like that,
you get scammed out of it.
On you.
It's all on you. If you want to learn about maybe why you'd need some regulation, check out my episode with Jordan, Michaelides. We talk a little bit about that. So
cool.
That'll either be out just before this or just after this episode. So it really made me just want to get into some of the deeper aspects of trust. We haven't, sort of similar to our themed episodes, I guess, in the sense that this is focusing on trust, but with regards to that. So, that's how it came up for me. So
Let's dive on in.
Yeah, so the definition: firm belief in the reliability, truth, or the ability of someone or something.
Yes.
So that is what trust means.
Found the
Anything to
definition
add to that one?
No, that was the exact definition that I had to. Yep.
Nice.
It's an easy one straight. Yeah, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
I wasn't sure
up.
if you took some notes.
I did take some notes, and I actually put that because I was going to be like, and a bit of a throwback. So yeah, my definition: firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something.
Nice.
There you go.
Good. And so one of the other things that really got me thinking was, okay, how will the world change if more of us start to get into cryptocurrency, and then more of us are getting into the almost mindset of trusting less? Like, I don't need to trust as much because I can verify. And so will that actually make the world a better place, a worse place? How might that have some impacts on the world? I thought that'd be interesting to get into.
Yeah, I think it's a hard change. I think that's one of those where even if you understand the technology, because I don't think the trust goes away entirely. It does reduce the trust because you don't have to have trust in people, as per se. You don't have to have trust in corporations, kind of. But you still have to have trust in the technology. Like if the technology keels over or something goes horrendously wrong, you still have to have some trust in the actual technology itself. So there's that trust. But what you're sort of saying into moving into the don't worry too much about trust and just into verify mode, I think that's going to be a hard mental thing to shift over for people. And I don't even, and this is a different question, so I won't pose it in that way. But I think it is attached to also the fact that it is decentralized, like a lot of the cryptocurrency, right? So to move to verify, unless you're very confident of what you're doing with it and what you're playing in there, I think there's a lot of people, mass population, might go, yeah, but it's not who controls it, right? Who controls it, and because what if something really bad goes wrong, and then that what if kind of holds them back from even carrying down the path of the true, trust and verify sort of connection.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you see it that way, or do you see it as something that is going to be an easy transition for people?
Well, see, yeah. So in terms of transitioning, no, it'll be extremely difficult because you're taking more responsibility for yourself. So yes, you're gaining a bit more power in a way because that power of the monetary system of relying on the Australian dollar or whatnot, that a lot of that power is in other people's hands.
Yep.
I have no, I had no
The
input.
power is in other people's hands, but so is the risk.
Exactly, and the responsibility.
Yep.
And so, I had no personal say into whether we printed a shit ton of money because of COVID to stimulate the economy. I had
that was
no
your choice,
input into that. With let's just take Bitcoin for example. That responsibility is now no one's to have, but it's almost like there's that sort of goes onto me now, in that I have no recourse now if my Australian dollar gets lost somewhere in a transaction, or if I accidentally send it to someplace. Have you ever had an account? So, for example, I've tried to send money somewhere. I wrote in the account number wrong. It was $20 or something. That got just held up somewhere. A check, like a check and balance somewhere in the system said, "Hey, wait, that doesn't really make sense." Because I don't think that account number exists, etc., etc. Now, if I do that exact same mistake with crypto, it's gone.
It's gone.
You
ain't getting that back. It's gone.
And it's gone for everyone. So I'm almost making everyone else's bit of Bitcoin worth more because I have
doing that. By just sending
stupidly put mine into the ether and it's not coming back. So I think that the trust point, I think people would be okay with being like, oh yeah, you know what, I don't want to trust a bloody bank, I don't want to trust this person. But when they realize that means you have to have more responsibility for your own actions, and in this case we're talking about money, that's hard. That's a big hurdle. That's one of the things that was stressing me out when I was first getting into this. Like, I don't want to do something stupid. I don't want to do something. I don't
it's
want to
all on you.
Yeah.
There's no checks and balances. Well, there is some. Look, there is some checks and balances, but if you put in the wrong address and you send that, there is no but. Like, that's it. You ain't getting it back. You ain't gonna call up someone and be like, "Oh, excuse me, can you kind of help me out here?" I've done that. No, it's gone. You've stuffed up.
And that's sort of the point as well. So those people that you could call up, you don't have to trust them anymore, but then also you can't recourse to them if things go badly. So
that's right. Yeah.
I think people are more than willing to, hey, I don't want to trust people as I don't want to trust. And we'll just be specific here. I don't want to trust the banks, or I don't want to trust my government as much. I think people are pretty okay with that, and I've got some graphs here of some trend lines of how trust has been declining or increasing in certain places across the world with time. For example, in the US, I believe it was about 90%, and I'll put up a link to where you can find this in the in your podcast player. Get a good one so you can see it right now as I'm speaking. And that one, I think in like the 1970s, 1950s was high, 90% trust in the government, and now it's just like plummeted down to 30, 40%, something like that. So I think that's the trend line. People are okay with that, but acknowledging that responsibility more for yourself now and for your actions and whatnot, that's a bit of pill to swallow.
Well, let's just go, can you have a completely trustless society?
Yeah, I would say no.
I would say, like, you're always gonna, like, and that's what we're saying. I guess we're talking here on like the particular utilizations of cryptocurrency and those functions. It's not like you'd lose all the trust, as in like you still need that in like a lot of other places. But I think we're specifically saying, can we move to a less trust, more verify mode of talking in terms of like your financial, like I could say financial assets, or just assets in general. Maybe you could even like generalize it to, and I think you can. I think just the conversation of getting there and getting everyone on board is going to be a hard thing. One thing that I was actually reading about was, and doing a little bit of research for this, I was like, okay, what do people kind of currently say about the trust aspect of it? And one thing that I was reading up was, and I saw some people say 3, some people say 4. They were like, oh, there's 3 kinds of trust. This is what I just took away. It was like 1, institution-based, characteristic-based, and process-based. So institution-based, like that's what we're talking about. governments, companies,
Big entities,
banks, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Characteristic based is like just trust with like other individuals, right? Like, okay, you say you're going to do something, there's some implied trusting, and then there's process based, right? And process, like, you trust a process that you've been doing for like 1,000 times, you trusted that in the 1,001 time it's going to go and do the same thing. And one thing with, like, say, Ethereum, which we've talked about it in the meanderings, just previously as musings, where there was a time when, and this happened a couple of times in Ethereum's existence, where even though it's there's not one person who owns Ethereum, as in, like, there's not one owner to it, but there's still a face to it, which is Vitalik. So he was kind of by proxy, people were asking him, like, oh, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Which kind of goes against what it is, right? Like, if you think, like, the maximalist view for, like, Bitcoin, it's like, oh, well, it just should be like, no, nobody owns it, just like an asset that basically just gets spread around, and there's only a maximum amount of them, and that's it. Like,
yeah. Everyone agrees on the code, not on the coder.
Yeah, exactly. So there is maybe still even a feeling now, I could imagine, maybe not with Bitcoin, but other ones, like other cryptocurrencies, where there is like a main person, which, as much as you want to try and remove the trust, there's still got to be a trust in the actual characteristic of that person. So, like, you might still base a lot of decisions on the fact of how Charles runs Cardano, even though he's not theoretically, like, I guess, the owner of Cardano. Some people, you can make that statement by the fact that, he might lead the main team or something like that. So, how you could get around that, I think, to go from a truly just all verify, no trust, and I'm talking like removing those three aspects of, the character, the institution, and even the process. Although I feel like the process has to be there because it's technology. You have to trust in the technology. You kind of have to move away also from thinking about it like as a person, like, oh, that person's doing this, just like, oh no, it is that blockchain for that purpose. Like, you don't currently think of, like, well, money perspective, like, you don't think from money like, oh, there's one person who owns it, but there's a corporation who run that, and that's like the trust entity of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I wanted to, I suppose, to go over some of these graphs and just explain why I was wondering, what could be like the long-term effects of
trust reducing.
So let's just say more people get into cryptocurrencies and more start to say, okay, embody that mantra of don't trust, verify. How will that maybe change societies in some way? And so if you look at the share of people agreeing with the statement, most people can be trusted, you really notice that this goes with economic opportunity, or like, levels of trust are higher in more equal rich countries. So if you look at this graph here, and check on your screen, people.
Yep.
You can see it's pretty clear trend line that the more people are trusting in those societies, the better off their countries are. So this is talking about like the Scandinavian, and when we say better off, we mean in monetary terms. So GDP per person, per capita, and you'll see like, the Scandinavians, the Australias of the world, they're generally higher. They have the higher levels of trust, and this correlates with higher levels of GDP. And then the lower ones, so these are places like Singapore, Portugal, Israel, Greece, etc., they're a bit lower on the scale. So I found that kind of interesting that I'd heard about that before, and just wanted to check that data to see if that was still the case. And then there's another one which is just like a map of the world showing country level estimates of trust and whatnot, and once again just trending towards the places which are wealthier in the world have more trust in them. So the reasons behind that, I'm pretty sure, have been things like you're able to do business quicker, you don't need to have that wasted energy in enforcement of contracts and things like that. There's less resources tied up in the enforcement of it, of transactions and things like that, because it's like, oh, I know that dude over there, I can trust him. I don't need security for my house, like I don't need a walled garden and etc. So things related to that. But I was thinking, maybe would that decline in those countries, so people start trusting less? Would that then equal worse off conditions in certain respects because I can't trust my neighbor anymore to not break into my house and steal my things like that. Do you think that would have any effect on it, the cryptocurrencies? And that change, that mindset?
Like, would it transfer over into the normal societal trust levels?
Yeah. If people start embodying the mantra more, don't trust, verify, would that start to creep into everyday interactions between people? Would that would they lose more trust in their government? Would they lose more trust in...
I think they would, only if it goes beyond the financial implications of it. Like, if it goes beyond the assets and the utilization of blockchain, then, like, if you then start talking... So, we're talking cryptocurrency, which is currencies, right? So we're talking currencies here. And as long as it's in that domain, I don't think that it would really transition over and change that too much. Will it maybe change it slightly? Maybe by 1% or 2%. I wouldn't say like a lot. But would it do like dramatically? I wouldn't think so. However, if all of a sudden that mantra was uptaking and more things are just currency, so we're not talking just cryptocurrency, we're talking blockchain applications, then that's another thing entirely. Because like, let's imagine that government level then undertakes the utilization of blockchain and moves away from less trusting and more verification. And that might be for things like just really generic things. Imagine tracking the laying of pipes or the cleanup of toilets or something like, quite random like that. Just information.
Your worker goes to do this job and he says it's done.
Correct. So I think...
Do you need to verify that work all the time now? Do you need to verify that he laid the pipe in correctly? Do you need to verify, etc.?
Yeah, I think that there would be, if other domains beyond cryptocurrency starts being a lot of blockchain applications, then I think that maybe that mantra would extend to the mentality of people. Yeah, but I don't think if it stays within the domain of cryptocurrency, I wouldn't see it impacting it as much.
Yeah,
to be honest.
that was sort of my thoughts, and I would say probably it'll take too long to... Yeah, I think people have the ability to recognize there's a difference between trusting in you, the person one, like that characteristic trust you were talking about, and then trusting in the government, which I think people would be able to separate those two in general and say, you know what, I don't trust this big entity. There's obviously something that goes wrong when large groups of people are together making decisions and stuff just goes weird. Yeah, there's politics comes in, bureaucracy, that sort of stuff.
One thing, and I'm going to probably I'm going to tackle this from another direction because it just sort of came to my mind. You got the story of old lady. I'm going to put an 86-year-old lady. Imagine, she is still doing her banking. She wants to do it at the branch. She doesn't want to do banking online. She's like, I don't trust it. Yeah. I don't trust this digital way of doing things. I want to go to the branch and know that my money is being correctly transacted with, right? So I think if I step back, we're talking about that mantra, I think my answer's coming at it from a decades view. But what if you step back and look at it in like a couple of 100 years, like a couple of centuries? We saw it happened like within a century. It happened that you were using bank tellers and whatever it may be to completely digital. Banking is pretty much the way to go. Like when was the last time you went to like a bank?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a fair while ago for me.
People who are like, old generation, right? I'm talking, let's say, whatever. This is generalizing, but 60, 70, 80, 90, right? There might be some people in there who are like, I don't trust doing it online. Like, I can't trust that. I think we're in that similar space potentially now where we might also be seeing some people who are maybe even younger towards it, be like, no, I don't trust the cryptocurrency. That I don't trust to not to go towards the verify model. I'm like, I want to be in the trusted entities that I know currently.
Yeah.
But it might be one of those things that like and look, there's not to say like, I do believe like it's a very transformational like technology, blockchain and what it's doing. It might also be that something else comes along and is even better. Like that could also happen. But if it sticks around, it could be a thing that like 60, 70 years, that transition then is just like almost automatic by the sheer virtue that people are growing up with that like as a default mode. So we're almost about to be 30 years old, so we experienced blockchain. Like we didn't know about blockchain and cryptocurrencies from like the first day it was around,
too
right?
young for that.
But I might have started hearing about it when I was 20, whatever it was, 22, 23, right? So like
Yeah.
that's when I started like hearing about it.
Same for me.
But there will be like kids for sure. There'll be kids now who are 8, 9 years old who grew up with cryptocurrency, like
Yeah.
who maybe even to today's world they're like,
Well, their dads
oh,
will buy them a wallet so that they can understand
exactly.
what
There
a
will be, and like
Bitcoin is.
let's put it into like more reality. I think in 15 years from now,
Should I just say buy them a wallet and get them a wallet?
yeah, in 15 years from now, I could envision. Let's imagine if I have a kid in 15 years, I can envision within, let's say they turn 10, 12, I'd be like, oh, here, I've put these cryptocurrency away for you in your digital wallet. You can now own it. Here's your seed. Here's all this.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be the, do you,
You
do
wouldn't
you
even,
remember...
would you open, like, it almost, like, I don't think it's going to be that quick, but you almost would be like, not open them a bank account.
Yeah,
You open them a
100%.
wallet.
Do you remember your dad going to the
remember,
bank?
I remember,
me too.
I remember going to the bank and being like, oh, let's open up your first initial account. You're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
It's the same thing with crypto. That's like it's, and I truly believe like in a couple of years it'll be that. But I think that's the. I'm saying like, oh, maybe the trust verify mentality. I think it's specifically with crypto. If it sticks around, then it's a foregone conclusion because people growing up, by the majority, will start going down that path of like, just like we said, like you don't open up your bank account, you open up your digital wallet,
Yeah.
and then off you go.
Yeah.
So
for
and
sure.
then I think you would grow up with the mindset of, oh, we'll verify. Like, oh, I don't have to trust, whatever. I just have to verify that the thing's being done correctly.
Yeah. The other problem is the verifying actual part, because when I think to the heart of it, what inspires me, what makes me, trust that cryptocurrencies are the way of the future, that using the blockchain for finance is the way of the future. It's people. Once again, it's people, because I can't verify. I can look at the code.
Yeah.
I can look at the ledgers. I don't know what the fuck it means. I can sort of see my transaction on there, but I can't tell you what a TLV record actually is. I can't tell you how it actually is sent from, like, I had so much trouble trying to understand how are you creating a wallet? What happens if Blue Wallet goes away? What happens if Atomic Wallet? What happens if Trust Wallet goes away? How are these things getting created? Like it was too hard for me. Like that technical, the coding side of like, how is this actually getting created in code? Who's doing it? Where from? Well, and it still is. Most of the nuances. I was saying this with you. One of the problems with cryptocurrencies is you can get up to a point, and then the next step you take isn't like
you plunge off the deep end.
I can use the concepts I've used before to understand this. It's truly just absolutely huge hurdle, which is like, okay, I guess I'm going to spend another 15 hours trying to understand what a concurrency is, or some bullshit that is going on. So the verifying part, when I think about it, I'm still trusting in people, but I'm trusting in like a broad spectrum of people. I'm almost trusting in Lex and to trust in him to
be telling me the right things,
get suitable people on, so I can learn about cryptocurrency from who was I talking about just before, Nick Carter, or some of these other people, and then trusting in my own experience of playing around with it and seeing, okay,
it's still like it's still in a day and age where yes, you can verify, but it can be complex to verify, depending on how much knowledge you have on the topic at hand. I do think though, again, it makes me think of the mantra, when we sort of move that fully as well. I think, and specifically I'm thinking Etherscan right now with Etherscan, which is the way that you can find transactions basically, and lots of other different things in the Ethereum blockchain. It's searchable, but it is very development, knowing what the hell's going on, orientation, which is fine because it's the current main users of a lot of these cryptocurrencies. You're either holding them as assets, and from financial perspective, or you're using them to do some sort of development, or you utilizing them in applications or some kind like that, right? There's not people who are just in there for really using it like a bank account. There's some people, but by the general population, no, that's definitely not happening. But for it to get there, I think it does have to become very easy to verify. I think when it allows the verifications to become much easier, and look, that might mean that people are just gonna learn all of these terms that we're talking about, and you'll just be like, oh yeah, that's what this is, and that, this is what a hash is, and this is what writing into the block is, and blah 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 blah. That just becomes like known things. And right now it's like, it just seems really hard, and it's deep.
I don't have to explain what an NFT is.
But imagine if let's take for instance Etherscan, and you went into it and it wasn't like Etherscan, it was like a bank application that you normally use, and so it's just really easy to just like scroll through your transactions. Easy to just find like this. You can type in like search it by name or by NFT or by crypto name or like all this sort of stuff, and it just becomes like usable by the normal population of users. I think that would also have a hand in going, okay, now that mantra of like just being comfortable with verifying, not trust, then is there. But again, it's like trust will never truly go away, because there's still the trust in the process, and still need to trust in the people who are actually like looking after that.
For sure.
It's still looked after by somebody. It's not like it's not looked after by anybody. It's not just like spawned by an AI and just like runs on its own. No, it is looked after by somebody.
Yeah.
Imagine the chaos if just somehow this happened, but like the internet actually went down. Like internet actually just completely went down on the, like, obviously lots of other things would just go absolutely mental, but for the people in the crypto world, like that would be it. Like that's where all your theoretical money lives, and it's like, oh, it's all gone. Be like, shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think those people would be roughly in the same position as everyone, because then it would just get back to, how much stuff do I have? Like that's when it's like real physical. My house is here. This is my land. I'm like, how am I going to protect this? With fucking pots and pans and shit that's lying around my house.
I'm in for that.
Yeah, I know you want the apocalypse.
I'd be keen for it, dude. I'd be up for the apocalypse. bit of trust and verify both. I'd be verifying who you are.
One would trust in his fucking huge guns to ensure his safety.
Dude, I think that's what I'm building up for. That's what I'm training for. I'm training up for the apocalypse.
I swear, you're gonna be a prepper one day.
Yeah. No, I would never become a prepper. Like I could never see myself having like a bunker or something. I think that's so dumb. Like bunker setup but I do believe in the side of like it'd be cool to have a big 4-wheel drive, for the things you need. Have a little bit of extra food when it comes to the requirement for that, but not like to an extreme.
Yeah, Brendan and I were discussing this the other night. We were just saying like, you know what? I'd be okay with the apocalypse in a way, but I wouldn't want to be stressing out about trying to live through it in a way. So it's like, zombie apocalypse happens. Maybe I would take myself to Mackay because it's kind of out of the way a bit, but it's like I wouldn't want to stress too much about like the zombies and be like, oh shit, I got lucky in that escape. It's like, oh fuck it, the zombies here. All right, just take me. This
reminds me of I don't know why, but you remember that story you're telling me about how you'd want to go like to the outback and live in a cave or whatever.
Yeah, with dynamite and shit.
Goddamn.
Make a big ass thing. So related to trust, though, my last one I wanted to ask you is more a personal one. Sort of, what's your default trust level? How do you view trust in your day-to-day lives, and I think a good one would be how do you trust in people in particular, or maybe in governments or systems across those three?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What are your thoughts?
I feel like my trust levels have slowly inched downwards in governments and corporations.
Yeah.
In the fact that in the knowledge of knowing more things about historical concepts, knowing how companies work and interact, and going
just more knowledge on the broader spectrum. Like you asked me a couple of years ago about printing money and inflation. I wouldn't have understood it, but I've sort of lived through a bit of it now. Yeah. And I'm sort of like, you know what? Fuck that. Yeah. That's bullshit.
There is some levels of trust, I think, in agencies like that I go, what's the interest, I guess, and it's not always going to be like little old me. Like that's not sometimes the biggest interest. But I think my trust in people has gone up selectively. So I think I've personally been able to trust more in more specific select people than in the past. Why or how though? It's an interesting question. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to that question?
So very similar for me with the governments and institutions, but just the small things. Working in a company and just seeing the politics that can go on there, and both before and after, well, during and after me leaving it, and seeing yeah, that's that person shouldn't be in that position. How did they get there? Oh, they knew this person, sort of thing. So seeing that sort of stuff, definitely in the, and then also just the frustrations of just how incompetent it can be to set up an account, or you talked the other week about trying to get a credit card with NAB, and it was just horrendously useless.
Yep.
So agreed, similar sort of thing for me with that. I think with people, I had a heart-crushing one when I was quite young, where a good friend of mine stole some money from my brother. And this was a long time ago. I must have been 7, and he would have been, no, sorry, because my brother was older than that. So I would have been like 11 probably.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And he lied to my face. He set me against one of my other friends, convinced me this other friend had taken the money, sort of thing. And that, I think, was really illuminating in a way. Illuminating in the fact that I already knew he was a thief. And so more looking at people's actions rather than their words. So that really has cemented in upon me that verify with their actions and put more weight on their actions than words. 100%. That I think that was a real useful learning and trust for me. And everyone says it, everyone knows that, but it's really hard to do it as well.
That's a good example of why it is sometimes better to verify than trust. Because implied trust is good, but it doesn't serve as good as the action or the verification of it. Like, as much as you want to say, like, I am going to do the cooking, like, it's not until it's verified that you've done the cooking that it's actually like, okay, that's happened. Not that you say that you want to go and do the cooking. So that, I think, in terms of day-to-day interactions with people and individuals, I'm going up more with that. I think learning about stuff like, society gets better and is more beneficial to me. I actually have more wealth when I'm more trusting of other people in my society. I think that as a general rule, I try to be more trusting and in smaller levels though. So like, and it's not, 0 to 100, here's my life savings. It's, I'll put a little bit of money in for this, or I'll give you this small responsibility. Can you handle that? Okay, cool. Then I'll be willing to do, more, etc. like that. But I'm also trying to mentally prepare myself for the day where someone fucks me over really badly. A friend of ours was chatting with us last night about just how, and what seems like an injustice from his point of view. We didn't get the story of his partner, obviously, so it's rather one-sided. But you look at it and you're like, fuck, how can people turn around on each other like that in a way? Or be so heartless, cruel in a way, once they've split up. This is where you need an inhuman AI.
That's it. But I think it's useful to prepare yourself for the day that someone does do that, so your whole world isn't rocked to its foundations and you can't trust anything anymore. It's more like, you know what, all of this has the capacity to fuck up big time, and anyone can do anything if pushed into a corner, or if their circumstances happen in their life. So the more I feel like, the more trust in my life, the better. But once again, sort of selective. It needs to be built up, and then just got to hope that, I hope that you don't take my crypto because I leave it sort of like lying around in certain locations. Or like my brother, for example. I told him, hey, if you ever need to, like, if I die, I don't want this to go to waste.
Here's my seed phrase.
So I didn't give him my seed phrases, but I told him how he could get them. That sort of thing. I need to trust, like, I don't need to trust him. I just do trust him. But if he wanted to right now, he could fuck me over big time. So
you're going to get back home, there's going to be no money in your crypto.
I'm coming for you, P. I'm watching.
I think the last thing I was just going to say was, the more I even think about it too, I think the ability to be able to verify easily, I think it removes the need to trust in corporations and organizations. It's not that that goes away. It's that you don't need to, and the verification is there, but it strengthens the trust you may have in people to be able to verify easily. So, like, I just think it's a good thing to have to be able to verify in that manner, Whereas right now, it's a little bit of a black box event with a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I think just the transparency and the verification purpose
Yeah.
is like, okay, cool.
Agreed.
It allows for an improved trust with people, and it just removes the need of it. Not removes it entirely, but just removes the need of it from an organizational trust type perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I think that's a good productive
I
chat.
think that's a wrap, folks.
Some interesting
from
stuff in
Musings
there.
today for trust,
Yeah.
for verification.
How can people trust the mere mortals more? What could we do to
Mere
make them more
mortalites, I
trusting
think,
of us?
Actually, that's not even a good question.
No?
How can I trust you, mere mortalites? How can I trust you? Well, I expect that you've listened to every single podcast as verification. I will go through and check.
Yeah, you'll send them a random
maybe one day
message.
there'll be like a something through all the platforms or whatever where you can verify like, oh yeah, that person has listened to
They
this
know,
when they
yeah.
said that they would, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So in the future, so 32 years from now, I'll be able to go and track that down and make sure that if you said like I watch every single one, I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna go check that out.
I think, because I remember most of the stories that I've told on the podcast. So we could at some point just set up a random quiz. People click on it, and it's like, here's 30 questions of things that we've said. So what
was the answer
fast
to this?
food restaurant was Kyron in when he was going to this place? It was the McDonald's car park, and that's where he was waiting.
Yeah.
What country? Which swimming pool or which place was it where Juan was doing swimming with his sister and they were doing crazy shit?
Yeah.
Like those sorts of stories. And
We
just,
expect you,
just have enough of them, so don't expect them to know all of them, but then they should be able to get a certain number
At least
right.
29 out of 30.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. That's when you know you're a true mere mortal light fan.
Yeah.
True mere mortal fan. All right. Anything else to leave the listeners with?
No, I think, once again, like I was saying today, there's a lot of links and images coming into this one. So you will want to either be watching on YouTube, where you can see the pictures popping up on the screen as we're talking, or probably even better is, funnily enough, like it's almost like the podcasting 2.0 is getting better than YouTube in a way, because the links I'm talking about are going to pop up on your screen as long as you're using something with chapters enabled. So Fountain, CurioCaster, Podfriend, Castomatic, places like that. Or
So imagine that you can literally, you'll be listening to the mere mortals, right? We'll say something. You'll literally be able to click the link, keep listening to us, and it'll take you to the exact thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%.
That is literally not in any other platform that you can do. That is purely in those.
So there's 2,300 podcasts out there that are value enabled. So these are the ones which, there might be podcasts out there who know about chapters and not value enabled, but probably not. 1,500 of them are connected to the 3Speak. So those are people who aren't even really podcasters. They're accidentally podcasters. I think there's probably only like maybe 30 people who are putting in the time and effort to do that. You want fucking good podcasting here? 30 out of the 4 million out there? You come to Mere Mortals.
Come to Mere Mortals.
And make sure you stick around and tell a friend.
That's right. All right, that's it, Mere Mortals. We're going to leave it at that. I hope you're having a wonderful time anywhere you are in the world, be it morning, be it evening, be it lunchtime. Enjoy yourself, Mere Mortals. One out.
Karna. Trust in me.
Verify.